Here we have a bitrate, we have a green box, we have a live counter. Going to assume that means we are live, and that means welcome back to the Storytime Network. It is the Paradox Hour podcast. It is currently 1:05 in the morning, on the morning of the 31st of October in Britain, which means for me it is Halloween, and will soon be, well, in 7 hours?
7 hours.
7 hours
7
for
hours
you.
for me, like 4 hours for the East Coast.
That's what you get for being on a stupid time zone.
Mm.
But regardless, it is close enough for the Americans in the audience. It is here for pretty much everyone else. It is Halloween, which means today on the Paradox Hour we are discussing horror and thriller tropes.
Yeah, last year we did, oh god, it's been over a year. Last year we did an episode on Halloween episodes, which was fun.
Oh, that's what we did for Halloween. I couldn't really remember exactly.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was Halloween episodes.
Probably. It seems like something we'd do.
Mm-hmm.
But this year we're going more direct to the source.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously horror and thriller, two different tropes, though they are somewhat linked. Um,
They are similar in that they induce anxiety in people.
mm. I mean, horror is horror is more about the fear aspect. Thriller is more about the sort of anxiety aspect,
Mm-hmm.
and the maybe not necessarily the mystery aspect, because there can be horror can use mystery to great effect.
But thriller is more about tension and mystery, whereas
Yeah.
thriller is more about tension and mystery, whereas horror is all about the scare and the fear.
Mm. Mostly part of the reason why I don't watch a lot of horror.
Not really a fan of horror personally, but I don't mind thrillers at all. Thrillers are pretty fun.
Thrillers are fun, yeah. Horror,
Song is a banger too.
horror. I mean, it's a tough genre to really pin down because it is so wide ranging. I mean, just on the TV tropes page alone, there's like a dozen subgenres.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Like cosmic horror.
yeah, cosmic, dark fantasy, explorer, gothic, horror comedy. Oh, Shaun of the Dead.
Horror comedy is my favorite kind of horror.
Um, but we discussed this a little bit on Thursday when we were ranking when we were doing our ranking of horror movie monsters and characters. But horror in recent times feels like it's certainly the big movies have sort of just leaned a bit too much towards jump scares.
Mm-hmm.
While jump scares are a legitimate part of horror, they're sort of the cheap way of getting a reaction
Yep.
as well.
Jump scares are unfortunately the poor man's horror tactic
Yeah.
in a lot of cases.
Like, obviously, we're not saying that jump scares are, 100% terrible, but they need to be used, I think, sparingly, otherwise, and not be made, the sole technique used to get a reaction in a movie.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, it really does just sort of, get lazy.
It gets stale. Gets stale.
The other one is that, you've got your stereotypical splatter slasher movies.
Hmm. And of course, you also have everyone's favorite torture porn.
Yeah, I mean that again. That's another direction that recent horror has sort of been going too far, too far towards. I would say
That
of
you saw.
yeah, like OG Saw, like the first two, three Saw, maybe four. You know, pretty interesting concept. After a while, though, it just sort of get gratuitous.
Oh, very gratuitous. I'm pretty sure there was an entry at one point where I I remember a couple of the traps in Saw, and one of them was whoever got rid of the most weight off their body survived. It was
Yeah,
between two people. One of them was a really fat dude, and he just started cutting off layers of fat. And the other person was a skinny woman, so she just cut off her arm, and that's how she survived.
yeah, yeah. I do remember that mostly because I read the summaries for the whole Saw films. I think on Thursday as well.
Mm. Yeah, some of at a certain point it just gets really gratuitous, and it stops
Mm.
becoming scary and just becomes goofy,
Yeah,
and not in a entertaining way. I mean, not in a an intentionally entertaining way.
yeah. And to an extent, it falls into the same traps to as something like or things like Game of Thrones or The Walking Dead. In that, if you know you're watching a horror movie and it's killed 2/3 of the cast, you're probably gonna end up killing the vast majority of the rest of the cast off, and so it's hard to get invested,
Hmm.
especially in a series of films like Saw, because in Saw that the vast majority of the characters that you were introduced to in the movie are probably going to die in some horrible way.
Which is unfortunate, but most of the time there's the classic horror trope of developing doomed characters, aka introducing the dickheads.
Yeah, or the I shouldn't laugh, but the minorities in the cast, let's say.
Oh yeah, let's go down the list, shall we? There's the classic black dude dies first,
Mm,
which has gotten to the point where more modern horror movies have really genre savvy black characters who on occasion just hightail it out of there once they recognize the situation is turning into a horror movie scenario.
I mean, that would make me enjoy horror movies so much more if there was just this one black person on the cast who saw all this shit happening and went, "Nope, I'm out. You fucks can stay here and get killed. I'm out."
I think I've seen that in one or two movies, but I don't remember them off the top of my head. It's been
Yeah,
a long time. But yeah, that's the common one, the most common one rather. Another really common one is promiscuous characters die almost immediately.
yeah.
The classic death by sex.
Hmm.
I think it's really especially prominent in like slasher movies. Some of them have a slight justification for it, like the Friday the 13th movies do, sort of, with Jason's backstory. But beyond that, like it's usually just a way of slut shaming characters,
I was
basically.
gonna say a lot of these horror movie monsters and villains, really discriminatory towards the sluts.
Also misogynistic sometimes too.
Oh, 100%.
And then of course there's the classic gay characters dying first as well, which not great.
Yeah, it's almost like it's almost like what do you prefer? There being no gay characters at all, or the gay characters dying in the first 30 minutes.
Hmm. But yeah, those are like the classic horror tropes of hey, let's kill off these people who are minorities slash other discriminated groups.
Hmm.
Like the only exception to the like the only people who are guaranteed to be safe, and not even guaranteed, but just more likely to be safe are children and virgin women.
Yeah,
Like those increase your odds substantially of surviving a horror movie.
horror movies tend to end. Certainly the slasher ones tend to end with one remaining female character.
Yes, the final girl. So classic a trope that they actually made a movie called Final Girls.
Mm.
But yeah, no, that it's a lot of the horror tropes involved in slasher movies specifically are more or less based on who gets murdered first.
Yeah,
And 9 times out of 10, it is a hapless minority.
yeah. Please get better.
I don't know, man. That's kind of a big ask from the horror genre.
I mean, I get that we're
It-
getting to the point where certain especially if they are the asshole characters, where the audience just doesn't really care if the white character dies.
Mhm. Oh yeah,
Uh,
no. Asshole characters actually tend to die a lot too,
yeah. Well, they
which
tend
is
to,
understandable.
they tend to be the fucking idiots of the cast as well as the thing.
Yep.
There's
Wow,
there is
it's almost like a lack of intelligence and general douchebaggery coincide often.
I was about to say there does seem to be a general correlation between assholery and lack of intelligence. There's also we haven't yet talked about the kaiju genre as well, which tends to be
Mm.
or can be horror. I'm not going to say is always horror because I'm willing to. As somebody who hasn't watched really any kaiju films, certainly not films. I've probably watched some kaiju anime. Certainly, in my experience, they can either be action or horror. Sometimes a little bit of
Yeah.
both.
Yeah, it really depends on if the kaiju is aligned with the human heroes or not.
I mean, I think the thing that um, sets horror apart from something like an action film is the fact that generally the characters at risk, um, don't necessarily have a way to fight back until the end.
Mm, that is very true. Yeah, usually like for some reason either due to character stupidity or just like bad luck, the villains in the horror movies tend to have all the cards up until towards the very end of the movie.
I think
There are
the
exceptions to that, of course, but
yeah, I think the biggest example of that is Alien and Aliens.
yeah.
Because obviously, OG Alien is just straight horror, and that really is a case of they don't really have weapons. They are just being hunted. Um, but you get to Aliens, and 80-90% of the cast are fucking space soldiers, and firing off guns wildly.
And all but one of them dies anyways.
I mean, yeah. Uh, well, yeah, of the Marines, yeah. There are two more
Mm-hmm.
survivors.
Three more, if you count the android.
Yeah. I mean, he ended up bisected, if I recall correctly.
That he did. Look, if you get stabbed in the back by a giant ass monster like the Alien Queen,
Mm.
that tends to happen.
Yeah. I mean, if didn't in the third film it ended up pretty much all of them except for Sigourney Weaver died anyway.
Yep, and she does at the end of the third film. I don't like the third film.
I mean, I don't think many people do.
No, most people just ignore it and pretend it's not canon.
Yeah.
Same with the fourth film. Doesn't help that both of them are pretty bad movies overall.
Mm.
But what you gonna do? Yeah, no.
What the fuck? I'm sorry. I
What?
just looked at the synopsis for Alien Resurrection, aka Alien 4.
Why did you do that to yourself?
Cause I was curious. Okay. Set 200 years after the preceding installment, Alien 3, Ellen Ripley is cloned and an alien queen is surgically removed from her body.
Yeah,
What?
it gets. I'd advise not getting too hung up on it. It's just insane.
Fucking what?
Precisely.
What? Ripley has acidic blood? What?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. No point in dwelling on that too much.
Okay,
But
okay.
speaking of the Alien franchise, the first Alien is a very good horror movie,
Hmm.
honestly.
Yeah.
Fun fact about it: the the cast members die in descending order of their renown at the time the movie was released. So, I think it was John Hurt was the most well-known actor at the time, and he's the one who got chest bursted by the titular alien. And Sigourney Weaver was basically an unknown at that point, and she winds up surviving.
Mm. And the other fun fact from OG Alien is for that first chest burster scene, um, only I think John Hurt was actually told what would happen, so the reactions are genuine.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Like
pretty wild.
seeing this fucking creature just burst out of the chest.
Uh huh. Yeah, no, you know, method enforced method acting like that is pretty fun sometimes
Hmm.
when it's done in cases like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Speaking of horror tropes, this segs nicely into body horror.
Mm. Oh, body horror. Oh, does fucking Jujutsu Kaisen play on that so much?
Body horror is one of those classic horror things that's like, oh yeah, this is gonna fuck you up so badly.
Hmm. I mean, it's yeah, it's an easy way of getting that reaction by messing with the body. Um,
It's a very easy way to get visceral reactions from the audience
yeah, though
for good reason.
yeah, to be fair, I'm not that bothered by body horror. I mean, in terms of body stuff, the only stuff that really gets me like cringing badly is stuff to do with gums and fingernails,
Oh yeah, no, that's really gnarly stuff.
and to a lesser extent, the male groin.
Yep, groin attacks are also not fun.
Always wince when I see a groin attack.
Hmm. I mean, there's a scale of groin attacks though. Like you see someone get like cup checked or something like that. It's not great, but it's still better than like someone getting full on shanked in the groin.
Shanked in the groin, fine. It's it is what it is. But the groin is just like somebody be getting kicked or punched or kneed or whatever in the groin. Ooh, that
Mm.
hits me where it hurts, aka the groin.
I was gonna say, quite literally.
I can't help but empathize.
Oh, no, no, we all share the male pain. But yeah, no, body horror is like one of those things that just like gnaws at like the what's the word? Like visceral fears that
mm,
people have.
yeah,
So stuff like arachnophobia or fear of snakes or fear of the dark or fear of the unknown or fear of your body being horribly mangled. That
mm,
kind of stuff is just like one of the it's it's like the fuel that horror runs on.
yeah. It is the gas that the nightmare fuel attendant pumps.
Yep, basically.
Um, Fuck,
Uh,
was gonna say something. I've forgotten it now. God damn it! It was 2 seconds ago. Oh, my brain
oh,
is
I'm
dumb.
sorry.
No, no, it's fine. It's my brain is dumb. Um, what was it? God damn it! That's frustrating. Um,
Yeah, there's a lot of horror tropes out there, and they range from really rare ones to like ubiquitous.
yeah.
So you got stuff like the classic, "Oh no, I'm running and I'm trying to get into a car, but the car won't start, and I'm so screwed now."
Always make sure you get into a relatively new car.
Yeah, like
It's
the
it,
older the
it, it
car,
yeah.
the
It,
more likely it is to break down in a crisis.
I mean, it might still not work if it has been sabotaged, and there are some villains who are smart enough to do that. But you're
Hmm.
you're instantly in a better place than if you just go for an old junker.
Yep, Dresden would have a terrible time in a horror movie.
Mm.
Yeah, there are
Actually,
all
no, no,
sorts of.
he'd be fine because junkers he wouldn't have an issue with, would he? Depending on
All
how
right,
how new they are.
right.
It'd be if he tried to get in the new one that things would go wrong.
Oh, the irony. Oh, one of my favorite horror tropes is the horror-filled attic and or basement that you should that the characters should probably realize is a bad idea to investigate.
I mean, again, we said this on Thursday, but there is a distinct lack of common sense in all horror movie characters. Because
Oh, yeah.
really, if you like something like this happens and you are anywhere near civilization, like the ones that are out in the fucking woods in the middle of nowhere, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt of what can they really do, especially if their vehicles and their communications have been sabotaged. But the ones in actual like fucking civilization have no excuse for going, oh, these weird things have been happening and now I'm hearing a banging from the basement. I best go check on my own. Hello, Iron J Gaming. Like, come
Wait, how
on,
about that?
show some common sense and think, maybe it's a bad idea to go down there on my own, weaponless.
Nah, probably not a bad idea.
And then
You're doing fine tonight. Thank you for asking.
I am looking forward to daylight savings happening in probably half an hour, I think.
That was about right.
Yeah. But yeah, then there's especially the fucking ones who, you know, who partway through the film have absolutely no excuse of, hey, people have died, I should leave. I should really get my ass out of here, but no, I'm gonna keep wandering around doing stupid shit.
I mean, after a certain point, it becomes death by pragmatism.
Yeah.
Like, if the character is too pragmatic, they die as well. Or if the character is not pragmatic enough, they die.
Oh,
At some
that's.
point, it's just a no-win situation.
I remember what I was going to mention. The whole, using creatures that people are scared of, like snakes and spiders, uh, and then just slamming that button as hard as they can by in either increasing them in quantity, in size, or both.
Ah, like eight-legged freaks.
Yeah, haven't watched that film for a while. I don't think I.
I don't think I've ever actually watched that film. I've seen trailers and promos, but I got too freaked out by the giant spiders to actually watch it.
I know I watched it as a kid, and I know that because very specifically my dad was very scared of spiders, so he just outright refused to watch it, so he had to watch it without him. I remember as a kid I wasn't all that bothered by it, but I feel like if I did it now, I probably would be quite bothered.
Mm. The horror movie character rankings. We finished it about 20 minutes after you left, I think.
Yeah,
But
nothing managed to reach gay Babadook levels, so
I don't think anything ever could, honestly.
no.
Too much of an epic meme.
I think we ended up just giving the gold medal below gay Babadook tier to rich old white men because hey, nothing is scarier than rich old white men
I mean,
anywhere.
it is very realistic.
Hmm.
Very realistic. Yeah, now silver medals is still Freddy Krueger, though.
Yeah, because I mean, let's talk about Freddy because like,
His movies kind of codified a lot of horror tropes,
mm,
especially like the ones with more supernatural villains.
yeah, I mean, just him in general. It is part of the reason why he's so scary is because you can't escape him.
Hmm.
Like, the likes of Jason and Michael Myers, to an extent, you can, you know, at least try and run away from them, um, and try and get away from them. Freddy Krueger, you literally have to not sleep, and eventually, I mean, again, again, my main experience with most of these horror movies comes from parodies, and especially Simpsons parodies. And it really is,
Hmm.
that the Simpsons parody of Freddy is really good. I distinctly remember that one. Not just for the two hilarious jokes right at the start of lousy Smarch weather and at the thermostat the note, "Do not touch Willie. Good advice." Turns up thermostat. Which,
Yeah, that's great.
first time seeing it as a kid, don't get that joke. But now, later on, becomes very funny. But again, it is a case of how do you avoid it? How do you know, not dream?
Drugs.
I mean, yes, drugs. Uh,
Who's Horace Pinker? I've never heard of that character.
Main antagonist of Wes Craven's black comedy Shocker.
Haven't watched that one.
Hmm. I mean, honestly, in terms of horror films, we're pretty much normies. We haven't watched that many. Uh,
Uh-huh.
oh, Squid Game would be considered horror, wouldn't it?
I think it's more of a thriller.
It's part of what we're discussing today. I mean, I haven't watched it because
Yeah, I haven't watched it either yet. I'm planning to at some point, but I just don't have the time.
I mean, it's less time and more just I can't really. I don't like characters dying,
Oh
and
yeah,
I, I just don't feel the desire to watch a show based around getting invested in characters and then watching them die.
completely fair.
Frankly, it's a miracle I survived as long as I did watching Game of Thrones and Walking Dead. Oh, Walking Dead.
I never bothered with Walking Dead. It just didn't hook me.
Walking Dead is such a weird one for me because, as I did mention on Thursday, like zombies are a such a huge fear of mine, like massive, massive fear. Um, like I don't even know what started it necessarily. Like I remember the first zombie movie I recall watching was Shaun of the Dead, but that's obviously not that scary.
Yeah, it's a horror comedy.
Nowadays I do enjoy Shaun of the Dead and find it hilarious because it is. But I'm just absolutely terrified by zombies, and yet I went out of my way and watched and binged. I think the first season and a half of Walking Dead.
Huh, interesting.
As like, how old was I? It was post Canada tour, so 14, I think. Um,
I don't know.
so I watched from series from well, yeah, from series halfway through series 2 to what season did I even stop at Walking Dead? That's a good question. Probably season 7, maybe.
Wow, you got far.
Sounds about right. Might have been earlier actually. No, it was season 7. Season season 7 to season 8. Yeah.
At that point, I'm surprised you just didn't go full sunk cost.
Well, what stopped me from watching it is the fact that that was 2017 was if I recall correctly, was the year I went to university, and therefore didn't have access to. Well, I did still have access to it. It just took a lot more work, and I just sort of stopped bothering.
Completely fair.
Because yeah, I really was just sort of burnt out on it. It's a shame because there are some really good performances in Walking Dead. Like I really enjoy a lot of the actors. Um,
Oh, the actors are good actors. It's just like The Walking Dead isn't really a particularly great show.
Not anymore. No, the writing did sort of take a downturn,
I can,
and like the Walking Dead comic had a bad enough case of kill off characters at the drop of a hat. But the TV show also had the added wrinkle of sometimes the actor or actress decided to leave.
mm. So 9 times out of 10, they had to kill them off.
Yeah, I wouldn't even say 9 times out of 10. I'd say 10 times out of 10 for the most part. But but yeah, I mean, what are be that one? Yeah, Undead Index. Um,
There's a scale of how undead a character can be.
yeah.
I mean, I think it goes like completely mindless zombies all the way to full on lichdom.
Hmm.
If we're talking intelligence,
Yeah.
anyways.
I'm just trying to think if there is how many movies or how many TV series there's been with a legit like lich type character.
Not that many. I think liches are typically limited to like literature and TTRPGs.
Hmm.
What is our Twitter handle?
Uh, Give me a second. Well, I'll just do this, and the link is there, as well as the YouTube channel. I think it's storytime_net, if I recall correctly.
Looks like it.
Yeah.
But yeah. Hmm. Going back to the various tropes of horror movies and horror horror stuff in general. There's a lot of just like evil possessed object slash location that's also a real commonality.
Yeah.
Like God, I couldn't even count how many horror films are set in haunted houses or feature haunted like dolls or other objects.
Mm. Again, I get taken back to Treehouse of Horror from Simpsons. The fucking
God.
uh, the fucking evil Krusty doll and the dude selling it.
Ugh.
Like just like it's just that whole segment of the shopkeeper saying something and Homer going, "That's good," or "That's bad." After a while, just going, "Can I go now?" And then
Yes.
and then
Yes, you
just
can, Homer.
and then just when like Homer first gives it as a gift, uh, Grandpa Abe just going, "That doll is evil, I tell ya, evil." Grandpa, you said that about all the presents. I just want to be included.
Nice.
Oh, that's just the doll's trying to kill me, and the toaster's been laughing at me. Just Treehouse of Horror is great. Certainly the early ones. Um, but yeah, I'm trying to think of specific like examples of possessed items or buildings. It's
Mm,
not coming to mind. Oh, that's right. That's what I was going to mention. Seeing as we are talking about horror, do sort of have to talk about Devilman Crybaby.
can we not?
We have to an extent. Like it is most definitely a horror series. But it. So again, this is something that the horror movies can struggle with, which is the whole darkness induced apathy.
Mm, yeah, it's the whole eight deadly words. I don't care what happens to these people.
Yeah, I mean, again, it I mean, I don't think I would not say that darkness induced apathy is necessarily a part of that particular thing. It is a case of I think darkness induced apathy is a case of um, you are invested in the characters and the the show, the book, the movie, whatever, keeps punching you and saying, "Oh, you're invested? Ha, your problem. Ha, your problem.
Basically.
Fuck you for getting invested." Like punishing you for getting invested. And it is, most definitely um, an issue that horror movies have to deal with, especially series of horror movies, horror series, because it's the problem that befell Walking Dead to an extent. You get invested in these characters and they fucking die.
Yep.
Usually in brutal
Really
and brutal
gruesome ways.
ways, or what's the word? Abrupt manners.
Though in some cases it's the opposite and it's really drawn out.
Yeah, to the point of what's the word? Well, I mean, the TV tropes would be Nam probably. Starts with an M. Really, God, my brain is not working today.
Might be due to the time that you're awake at.
I slept for a couple of hours before this. It's fine.
Uh
Melodramatic. That's the word I was thinking of. Melodramatic.
oh yeah. Old melodramatic death scenes.
Yeah.
Right. You know what's a horror trope I really like though is the whole nothing is scarier thing where they actually hold off on showing something happening, just leave it up to the viewer's imagination.
Mm.
And honestly, it's usually much scarier that way.
Yeah.
Hmm. Well, you have hmm. There's also build up stuff too, like those scenes that build up tension gradually by alluding to the fact that someone or something is there, but not revealing it for quite a while.
Yeah.
Jaws ran on the trope.
Mm-hmm.
You don't see the shark for the first time until about two-thirds of the way into the movie.
Yeah.
But Jaws is more thriller than horror.
Again, it's under our purview for the stream. Um,
True.
do you want to talk about Berserk, considering you have started reading it now, and it is most definitely horror?
Oh yeah, Berserk does a lot of horror shit. A lot of like a lot of the horror in Berserk comes from a combination of body horror, demonic presence, and straight up cosmic horror stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So there's such things as monstrously powerful demonic entities that can manipulate the flow of fate
Mm-hmm.
on the cosmic scale, and then there's just the horrifying transformations of many of the demonic apostles.
Yeah.
Some of which are just like really intense and gross looking.
Mm.
Like honestly, the apostle transformations that don't look horrifying are the exception more than the rule.
Mm.
Because
I.
like there are a couple that just like straight up ethereal or badass, but most of them are straight up disturbing.
Mm. I mean, yeah. I haven't read or watched really any of Berserk, but from what I know of it, there is a lot of body horror stuff.
Hmm. A lot of characters get killed in very gruesome ways as well,
Mm. Or
which is to be
tortured in
expected.
gruesome ways.
Hmm.
Or tortured in gruesome ways.
Precisely.
Yes, Griffith did do something wrong.
Griffith did everything wrong.
Hmm.
Well, not everything, just a lot of things. Yeah, no, Berserk is quite possibly the iconic example of dark fantasy I can think of.
Mm,
There are other examples, but most of them are like literary rather than visual mediums.
yeah.
Dark Souls is the other iconic example, but that derives a lot from Berserk.
Mm. I mean, in Dark Souls, the horror is getting mobbed and losing 100,000 currency. It's not souls. Is it souls?
I don't know, I haven't played the games.
It might actually be souls. I've only played Bloodborne, um, which is also another horror style game, closer to I think gothic horror. Um, but again, yeah, both both Dark Souls and Bloodborne play on the monstrous body horror aspect significantly.
Mm.
So much body horror. I mean, the so many of the boss fights start with a cutscene of the boss just being this person and then transforming into some grotesque being.
Hmm. Yeah,
Oh,
no,
do should we talk about
what?
Attack on Titan as well?
That's up to you, my friend.
It's another it's another one that falls into darkness induced apathy. It kills characters off at the drop of a hat. Um,
If you want something, another action horror that isn't quite so brutal, Jujutsu Kaisen is another one.
Jujutsu Kaisen does most definitely plays certainly on the body horror aspect through
Hmm.
Mahito. Oh, so much, so much body horror on his part.
He's the prime instigator, but there's body horror from other sources as well.
I mean, just curses in general. Certainly the you know non-special grade, non-intelligent ones are pretty horrifying.
Hmm. Yeah, their designs are really out there, but
Hmm.
at the same time, they're really good designs.
Yeah. Do you want to talk a bit about Claymore?
Claymore's another one that has a lot of body horror in it. I believe there's at least some inspiration from Berserk, but what dark fantasy isn't inspired by Berserk, honestly?
Yeah, I mean, we're talking a lot of these series play on body horror because it's an easy horror trope to use, or it's an easier horror trope to use in the
Written form, yeah.
written
Whereas,
comic form.
yeah, in terms of visual medium, body horror is probably the easiest one to go for.
Yeah.
Though that does not subtract from the effort that a lot of these people put into making those designs.
Hmm. Oh no, it's just I wouldn't necessarily say it's an easy way. It's a simple way, I would say.
Yeah, that's a better way of putting it.
But yeah, a lot of body horror in Claymore, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, no, a lot of the the awakened beings A lot of
Mm,
them had designs that were very reminiscent of Berserk's apostles.
yeah.
But yeah, no, they went all out with the Yoma to make them look very inhuman and disturbing.
Mm,
Oh, and some of them just straight up fell into the uncanny valley, which is A plus design choice there.
yeah.
Oh, yeah, speaking of the uncanny valley, that's another way of evoking horror or making something seem inhuman, even though it more or less looks mostly human.
Yeah. Just keeping, making something look entirely normal, except for one small aspect that just throws it completely off.
Mm, there's always that one bit, that
Hmm.
one bit.
So this is something that's probably more coming to what's the word I'm looking for again? Fuck it, I'll go for my original thought. More coming to vogue, showing myself off to be ancient. Um, is the creepy pasta.
Mm,
I mean, I frankly, well, not necessarily made a mistake, but I read several a few days ago, a week ago, something like that, um, and it is can be done so effectively in such a short range of time as well, or short amount of words.
mm-hmm.
I mean, it's frankly, as a writer, it's frankly impressive how effective they are. I mean, I managed not to dwell on it for too long, but it's still relatively unsettling, certainly.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that I think me personally, I think that's the sign of a good horror film or horror piece of media. Um,
Mm-hmm.
the ability to leave that unsettling feeling after it's ended.
Yeah. The best ones can leave you just deeply unsettled long after you put the work down.
Mm-hmm. So I'm trying to think. I know I watched a horror thing as a kid, and wandering around a dark house, just hearing little noises and jumping, as a result of that piece of media. That's when a horror movie has really worked.
Mm. Oh, you know one horror movie that I remember watching because it was actually like aimed at it was actually on I think it was Cartoon Network and it was one with Emily Osment that I think it was called Don't Think About It or something like that. It's basically like this horrifying creature shows up the like after when you think about it. Just thinking about it summons it, which is like kind of horrifying because
Mm.
you ever try that challenge of someone tells you don't think about something and you cannot not think about it?
Yeah, it's incredibly hard. Uh, so I think it's the haunting hour. Don't think about it.
Right, that's what it is. I think it was R.L. Stein who wrote that.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I mean, R.L. Stein has written so many fucking, so much fucking horror.
Yeah, the Goosebumps books are like his thing. And I think he wrote like 30 or so of those.
Oh, hey, it's 1 o'clock again. Hooray! Also, Wikipedia is loading very slowly.
Wikipedia. Sometimes it does that.
Yeah. Um. Yeah. What other? Trying to think of other subgenres in particular, but also just general tropes.
I mean, we could talk about cosmic horror and stuff.
Go for it.
Cosmic horror is just like probably the most horrifying horror genre,
Mm,
I think. Just because of how deeply it fills you with existential dread over the unfathomable scale of power that these beings possess.
I was gonna say it does tie into
Ex-
existential horror as well.
yeah. But yeah, commercially, horror comedy is probably my favorite, just because it has enough levity and fun stuff in it to kind of offset the more unsettling elements.
Yeah.
So there's one movie I remember being a pretty fun horror comedy. I think it was Cabin in the Woods.
Mm,
Like it had a lot of dark and horrifying stuff, but it also was surprisingly funny for a horror movie.
yeah.
And that's what kept part of what kept me watching.
Hmm.
I think I watched it for Halloween one year. I was like, okay, it's Halloween. I should watch a horror movie, but not one of those horror movies.
Here's a point. Just considering, how often it does play into this. Uh, is Dresden Files to an extent horror comedy?
Not quite. I think it falls more along the lines of urban fantasy or supernatural.
I mean, yes, obviously that's the main one, but I think there are definitely like, I mean, there's 100% horror elements.
Hmm. But that's a lot of urban fantasy.
I
Like,
mean, the in Deadbeat when Harry's explaining to Butters about the supernatural world and pointing out that the rate of disappearance is similar to the rate of death on the African savannah.
hmm.
Implying that, yeah, well, not even implying, almost outright stating that humans are prey.
I mean, they kind of are.
Mm. And then we've got, the walkers. He who walks behind, he who walks before, and he who walks beside.
Yeah, those are just like cosmic horror stuff, though. But yeah, yeah, Dresden Files does have a lot of horror elements. Come to think of it,
Yeah, like yes,
I
part
know.
part of it is the fact that it is a crapsack world, but even then, it's still a lot of it.
Mm-hmm. But we're about midway point now. Do you want to move on to thriller stuff?
Um, I mean, I wanted to mention a couple of other horror comedy things.
Go for it.
First, Adam's Family,
Yes, that was a classic.
in which the horror comes from the fact that the family loves each other. Ooh.
Honestly, I feel like it leans a lot more into the comedy than the horror,
Oh no, it absolutely
but
does.
the horror is definitely part of the comedy.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, yeah, just the whole fact that the Adams family is supposed to be weird because they actually love each other. It's such, what was it, 60s thinking.
Hmm.
The other one, we mentioned Shaun of the Dead, but the whole Cornetto trilogy to an extent is horror based as well.
Kinda, yeah.
I mean, Shaun of the Dead is obviously the most obvious one, but Hot Fuzz is based around basically a cult.
It's kind of a conspiracy thriller, actually.
Mm.
I feel like that seems more accurate than any kind of horror. Definitely feels like a conspiracy thriller.
Yeah, could very well fall into that as well. They also I mean, The World's
World's
End
End is
is
that's
probably,
an apocalyptic horror one, isn't it?
yeah, it's probably the closest to a horror out of the three of them, just because of the ending, if nothing else.
Yeah. Yeah, they're all
Uh,
really funny movies.
oh no, absolutely, absolutely, all very very funny movies because Edgar Wright, um, Simon Pegg, and Nick Frost know what they're doing.
Hmm.
In terms of last couple of horror media, Promise Neverland
Mm.
definitely plays
Yeah.
on plays a bit on body horror with the demons. Um,
It's very much based on an adult fear, I think.
very
Just like
much
the whole
so.
situation of the children.
Yeah.
But yeah, Chicken Run the Anime is a good example of horror.
God damn it.
I had to say it.
uh,
Sorry.
God damn it. I think that's the last one. I especially want to shout
I
out.
mean, I have not seen the Resident. I am probably not planning on seeing the Resident Evil reboot, but the song they used for the trailer is hilarious.
I mean,
It's the one
Resident Evil is something else we could just quickly talk about. Just in
I haven't
terms
played
of,
any of the Resident Evil games or watched any of the movies, but they seem like pretty solid action horror content.
again, it's very much closer to action horror than straight horror.
Hmm.
Because again, there's a lot there's a lot the main characters can do to fight. I mean, it falls into the same or it's zombie adjacent. I'm not sure if they're actually fully zombies, but
Kind of like House of the Dead, right?
yeah, I think so. Um, but the fear with those that type of media is not necessarily the you know one creature or even half a dozen creatures on their own. It's the fact that they are literally everywhere.
Hmm.
And while you may be able to take out you know even as many as the first few hundred, eventually you're going to run out of stamina or bullets, and they're going to catch up to you.
Hmm.
But in terms of actual straight horror games, oh fuck, what was it called? The Asylum one,
Mm.
Outlast. That's it. Outlast.
Yeah, I could not play that game.
Oh no,
Nope.
absolutely no. Neither could I. I mean, I think the only time I've even watched it be played is TFS's Krillin play, which is obviously
Yeah.
hilarious in that sense. But you know,
Speaking of Chrome plays, I've also watched him play Slender, which is funny as hell.
mm. Evil
The game
Within,
is horrifying. The game is horrifying, but Crone playing Slender is funny.
yeah. Evil Within, another one that falls, if I recall correctly, into more action horror, but definitely horror on its own. I haven't watched the playthrough of Evil Within 2, I think, for a while, so I can't remember exactly what goes on in it. It's definitely counts as certainly horror adjacent, if not horror on its own. Um, Silent Hill, yeah.
Silent Hill is one of the classics.
Again, these I feel like I'd rather watch a horror movie than I would play a horror game, because horror games just have that way of using music and sounds to ramp up the tension, and then you're forced to walk towards it knowing that it's the point of the game.
Mm-hmm.
Like horror movies, you can sit somewhat on the outside and go, "Oh yeah, I wouldn't do that in that situation. They're fucking idiots," like we have been doing this entire stream. Um, but horror games are based on you being the idiot and walking towards this shit. And you know you've got to do it, because otherwise the game's not. You're just not gonna go anywhere in the game.
Mm-hmm.
So you're walking towards it thinking, "This is a stupid idea. This is a stupid idea. I know it is. I know it is. God damn it! Stop making me do this. What was that noise? Oh God."
Basically, in a nutshell, yeah.
Yeah.
I can't do horror games for the most part. The only one
No.
I've ever actually played through all the way, I think, was Until Dawn, which did a lot of the classic teen horror movie tropes in an interactive game.
Yeah.
It's a pretty fun game, partially because of the whole butterfly effect thing going on,
Mm.
but it also has a lot of the classic horror tropes, including the whole
Unlikable
"oh, if you
cast.
bone, you're probably gonna die," or
What wasn't the cast?
teenage.
Wasn't the cast pretty unlikable?
It depends on how you play them.
Alien Isolation, another one that no, I probably wouldn't play. I've watched somebody play it, and I just even watching it gets me in that state of, oh god, I know what's gonna happen, and it's so
I'd
bad.
get so much anxiety.
Yeah, I the anxiety is too much. Like just knowing that the xenomorph is out there and just waiting to fucking stab me in the chest, just be awful. Like I need to be able to know that I can do something. Um, what? Well, I wasn't asking you to, phone. But why did you just turn on? I I didn't. What? That's confusing. But yeah, I have to be able to know I can do something. I probably would be able to play like the Resident Evil games, and maybe even the later Resident Evil games that really do play more into the horror aspect than the earlier ones. Um, but stuff like Outlast and Alien Isolation, where the goal is just to basically survive. Yeah, I just wouldn't be able to do it. I would just be too absolutely like anxiety ridden to actually move forward. I mean, let me have a look at my. Do I have? No, I really don't have any. Don't have any horror games on my Steam list. I mean,
Probably for the best.
the closest I'd say I'd come is Return of the Obra Dinn, and even then,
It's
it's
more of a mystery thriller.
yeah, it's well after the fact, frankly.
Hmm. I mean, I have a couple of visual novels that are definitely horror based, like The House in Fata Morgana and the When They Cry series.
And Doki Doki Literature Club.
Oh yeah, that's a fun one.
People keep trying to convince me to play that, and I keep saying no.
You are smart.
I will continue to say no because I'm just not that interested. I already know the twist as well, anyway. I'm fairly sure I do.
I know this as well. I'd probably wind up playing at some point though.
Hmm. Oh,
Oh,
here's a trope that is often played for comedy but should be played for horror. The yandere.
oh yeah, there are some things that do play it as a horror, but those are in the minority.
Hmm. They really shouldn't be.
Hmm.
They really, really shouldn't be.
I'm not saying they should. They should be.
Yeah. No, I know, but because genuinely I am trying to think of would the main villain of Devilman Crybaby be considered a yandere?
I don't know. I haven't actually watched that one.
I feel like it could, and that's concerning. That's quite concerning. um, do you want to talk a little bit about horror aspects in children's media or supposedly children's media stuff like Gravity Falls and Owl House?
Owl yeah, and we can talk about them a little bit
I mean,
because
obviously,
a lot of stuff aimed at children does have like horror stuff adjacent to it.
yeah. I mean,
Like Grim Adventures of Bill and Mandy, I'm surprised with how much shit they got away with.
mm, yeah. That is the thing. It is this stuff is made for children, so there's only so far that they can go, but they still manage to go pretty fucking far.
Hmm.
I mean, off the top of my head, Gravity Falls. Um, there was the fucking Summerween trickster, or the Summerween creature thing, that fucking ate a kid, and then Seuss, because
Hmm.
Seuss couldn't resist fucking hitting the joking skull.
Oh my god, those things are just so funny
Yeah.
to me.
Um, then there was the episode with the ghosts, or well, not the ghosts, but the ghost, where literally had blood, you know, pouring from stuffed animal heads, um, and
Oh yeah, they got that past the radar somehow.
yeah, somehow
Like I have no idea how the hell Alex Hirsch did it.
they weren't allowed. If I recall correctly, they weren't allowed to put a reference to spin the bottle on a party poster, but they were allowed to have that.
That's fucking wild.
Also, in that same episode, it had people turning to wood, which was pretty horrifying. Oh
Hmm.
yeah, the fucking shapeshifter from the start of season 2.
Yep.
Oh, and just Bill Cipher in general.
I'm gonna go turn those kids into corpses.
I mean, it
How the hell did
literally.
they get away with
I mean, they got away with that because it was the finale, and I don't. I imagine Alex Hirsch didn't really care. But um, like how did they get away with in his first appearance, in Bill Cipher's first appearance, trying to give a kid some deer teeth?
Yep.
Um, in another appearance, he gave Dipper a screaming head that then I think peeled itself of flesh.
Yep.
It caused such incredible paranoia in Ford that his greeting to his estranged brother was, "Have you come to take my eyes?"
Mm-hmm.
Like Gravity Falls got really fucking creepy at some points.
Oh, undoubtedly.
Um, and just, I mean, just the whole aspect of Bill taking over Dipper's body.
Yeah, it would be more horrifying if the whole scene wasn't played for if most of the episode wasn't played for comedy.
Yeah, it's still definitely unsettling, but yeah, it is mostly played for mostly played for laughs.
Mm-hmm.
Um, just trying to think if there is anything else in particular from Gravity Falls.
I mean, there's a lot of stuff in Gravity Falls that's just like disturbing as hell.
Yeah, I mean Gravity Falls had their zombie episode, um, though again, uh, part of it played for both horror and comedy. The comedy aspects being, just not necessarily the resignedness, but just the complete acceptance of Dipper. You raised the dead, didn't you? Yes. And then fucking Zeus when he became a zombie, just like, don't worry, dudes. I've watched tons of zombie movies. I know what to do. Gets bitten immediately, and then just turns into this most incredibly affable zombie. Just like, can I eat your brains? Yay or nay? I'm seeing some yay faces over here. Um, I mean, talking of yandere's, Giffany.
Oh God, Giffany. Definitely not related to the numerous dating sims that that have been localized in recent years.
Yeah. Okay, yeah,
No sorry, no.
I think that's it for Gravity Falls.
Owl House also has a lot of horrifying stuff in it.
Yeah, Owl House definitely does. Let me just get
Could
that
be here
up.
for talking about all of them though.
I mean, we can mention some key bits, certainly. Um, I mean, just in general, the creatures in Owl House, very much not your typical fantasy creatures.
Mm-hmm.
Um, oh God, the choosy hat.
Oh my God.
Again, played for more comedy than horror, but still. Oh, the choosy hat. Um. Oh, fucking Grom. Fucking Grom.
Oh yeah, the monster.
All right, thank you. Thanks for dropping in, INJ Gaming. It's always appreciated.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Grom is just absolutely terrifying. Well, not not necessarily terrifying for us, but it's clearly terrifying for the characters, and just
Hmm.
the idea of Grom is terrifying. Just this thing that can
Uh-huh.
transform into your greatest fears. I mean, funny the idea that one of Lucy's greatest fears is jerks who say they want to debate online.
They are nightmarish.
Less funny is when it turns into Lucy's mum.
Oh yeah, it hurts.
Um, let's pick out one last thing from Owl House, and then we can move on to onto thriller stuff. I I mean, Emperor Bellos in general seems pretty fucking creepy.
Oh yeah, no, he gives me just straight up really creepy vibes.
Oh, and Hootie when he wants to be.
Like that one scene where he escorts Amity, or no, not Amity.
King.
Fuck. King. When he escorts King, yes.
Well, here's the thing you got to realize. Hootie must have either Amity was just coming to visit anyway, which is possible, or Hootie went all the way to Amity's to the Blight house and kidnapped Amity from there.
Either way, it's funny if it's true.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely hilarious. Um, yeah, so thriller stuff. Um, so let's go with the TV tropes definition just to start off with, though, because I think
Thriller
everyone.
is a song by Michael Jackson, which became a big hit. Come on, man.
Hey, no, you fucking started that. I haven't.
No more.
I don't think I've even listened to the song. Not you know. Uh,
Really? How's
not
narration by Vincent Price in it?
not consciously.
Well, no mere mortal can resist the evil of the thriller, so
I just haven't really listened to that much Michael Jackson music in general.
completely fair. Not for everyone.
But a thriller is a genre in visual media and literature which focuses on action, fast pacing, tension, and suspense. The conflicts are usually between desperate heroes and powerful antagonists who outmatch them by a large margin. Frequent location changes, time shortage, and cliffhangers are extremely common.
Can
Uh,
overlap with almost any other genre.
can overlap with any other genre, but they do overlap more often than not with horror and science fiction.
Hmm.
Um, Dresden Files could be considered thrillers.
Yeah. I'd lean more towards calling them thrillers than horror.
Hmm. No, definitely seems possible. Um,
Hmm.
Apparently, Nighthead 2041 was a thriller. I'm not 100% sure. Uh,
Wild.
Very wild. I mean, there is an aspect of horror to that show for sure. Well, horror slash thriller in that a huge chunk of the population disappears, and then society becomes incredibly dystopian. Dystopian, is that the word I want to use?
Dystopian or dystopic?
Let me just check the definition of dystopia. I use a lot of words without knowing their exact meaning. Yeah, dystopian works. Dystopian works.
For some reason, Mal doesn't have a thriller tag. It has a suspense tag instead.
Hmm. Um,
By that definition, both Promise Neverland and ReZero qualify.
I mean, there is definitely an element of thriller in Promised Neverland by the end,
Hmm.
especially
Hmm.
especially that final arc.
Oh yeah,
Um,
that was in political thriller territory.
hmm um, Sorry, I got distracted slightly. Um,
That's fine.
I I do want to explain because I just need to share it. I follow a Twitter account that is based around Deku making friendship notes about Todoroki, except they're not really friendship notes.
Mm.
I mean, they started off as friendship notes, and then they have just now just devolved into Deku's diary about being in love with Todoroki, and I just fully on board. Anyway, so there are also subgenres in thriller. Um, why British conspiracy in particular? Seems
I
weird.
don't fucking know, man.
Mm. I mean, did you watch Bodyguard?
What bodyguard?
The British TV show with Richard Madden, aka Rob Stark, in it.
No.
Fair enough. I mean, it's listed here. It also comes to mind because apparently Americans thought Richard Madden was calling the woman he was supposed to be protecting, but was also having sex with, mum instead of mom. So they
Huh.
they they watched it thinking a lot of incest was going on.
That's funny as hell.
Yeah. So you've got the British conspiracy thriller, which again I don't think I've watched that many films. There doesn't seem to be that much in there on TV tropes in terms of examples.
Regular conspiracy theory, on the other hand, is a lot of stuff.
Oh, there's a lot of stuff. Yeah. Um, Full Metal Alchemist conspiracy thriller.
That tracks.
Hmm.
Oh,
Uh,
Golden Kamuy, yes. I can see that.
Later story arcs. Yeah, I can see that. Fairy Gone.
Kinda, yeah. Psychopaths, definitely.
Hmm. Well, Psychopaths also falls into that sort of cyberpunk dystopia, if I'm correct.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
I mean,
it
I
does.
I, I haven't watched it.
Completely fair. I haven't watched all the way through yet.
isn't
I'm probably
isn't
only going to watch season one because I've heard that everything afterwards isn't all that great.
I've heard season two is all right, but season three is where it really goes downhill.
Hmm. Oh, yeah.
Um,
Uh, ID Invaded is kind of a conspiracy thriller.
Detective is already dead. We have to care to get invested in your thriller aspects.
Yeah, then you got, oh yeah, Star Wars The Clone Wars. That counts. Um, then of course, there's so many actual, like, live action movies that are conspiracy thrillers. Kind of insane.
Detective Pikachu.
Yes, it actually does qualify.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of the James Bond movies fall into this.
Well, James
Mostly,
James Bond films in general are thrillers.
yeah, they're spy thrillers mostly though.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
so the Marvel movies are conspiracy thrillers, especially Winter Soldier. That one's the
mm,
most obvious on that front.
oh yeah.
Um, the prequel trilogy does not qualify as a conspiracy thriller. Get out of here. Go home, TV tropes. You're drunk.
What about Rise of Skywalker? I haven't watched it, so I don't
Bleh.
fucking know. It's
Skywalker
I
sucks.
I think for thrillers in particular, there has to be at least a modicum of competency to actually pull it off.
Mm-hmm.
Because otherwise, thriller aspects or thriller sort of relies on you being invested enough into the story that you sort of forget, maybe not necessarily forget that it's fiction, but like forget the idea of the story in general until it finally actually happens. And competent movies just can't pull that off enough.
Mm-hmm. No, like there's a lot of classic pieces of literature that are conspiracy thrillers, like the Da Vinci Code. God.
I've never read it, but I feel like at one point it was like really well regarded, and now it's not, and that is confusing.
Part of the reason it's not well regarded is because Dan Brown is kind of a fucking hack.
Fair enough. I don't I haven't read any of his stuff, so I can't like argue. Um,
Like he stripped made up facts and said that they're true,
fair enough.
rather than just saying it's artistic license. But yeah, there's a lot of TV shows are actually also
Mm.
thrillers, conspiracy thrillers, but doesn't
Here,
really
here,
overlap
here's
all that.
here's one for video games. Mass Effect.
Yes, you are correct.
I
Pretty
mean,
wild, right?
I'm not correct. TV Tropes is correct. Uh,
Yeah, some of the Call of Duty and Battlefield games are also conspiracy thrillers.
Persona's 4 and 5 as well.
Mm-hmm. That tracks.
So definitely
Oh,
Persona
what?
5. Definitely Persona 5. Certainly.
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
Akira Chronicles. Well,
Western animation is where I feel it falls off.
mm-hmm.
I would not consider Futurama to be not necessarily a conspiracy thriller. That implies there's
DuckTales
also
has some elements.
yeah, nor South Park. Again, I mean the issue with those two is that conspiracy thriller. There are definitely conspiracy thriller episodes for sure.
That's probably why they're on here.
Yeah, but like the overarching plot has nothing to do with it. Um,
The Clone Wars and Young Justice definitely qualify though.
fair enough.
Mm.
Um, then we go on to genius thrillers.
The fuck is a genius thriller?
Um, a very intelligent protagonist finds themselves faced with some kind of pressing problem or overwhelming enemy, usually a problem they can't defeat by brute force. They attempt to solve the problem primarily with the power of their own intellect. This is fun to watch both because of the tension in figuring out whether they can outsmart the enemy at all, and also seeing how they do it. Um,
Ah,
Promised Neverland would fall into this,
yeah,
um, as
absolutely.
as would Death Note.
Mm-hmm.
Death Note. Is Death Note actually that good? Genuinely.
Parts of it are. It kind of dips in quality in the back half of the series.
Mm. Um,
Like after a certain plot point, the series dips in quality considerably
yeah.
because it loses a lot of what made the series good to begin with.
Mm.
Won't say anymore because it's a spoiler, but
I mean, I watched an episode of it and I just could not stand the. I, I'm not sure if he was actually the protagonist. If he's actually the protagonist of the show, that first episode, the guy with the Death Note.
Light, yeah, no, he's the protagonist. He's
Yeah,
just an asshole.
yeah, that's what I mean. He's an asshole. I just could not be bothered, like even thinking about reading something about him. In terms of other genius thrillers, Sherlock. Well, Sherlock Holmes in general, probably. Certainly
Hmm.
the Sherlock TV show from the 2010s with
The,
Benedict
uh,
Cumberbatch and Martin Freeman.
don't you mean Bandersnatch Cumberbund?
Yes,
But yeah, The Martian apparently qualifies as well, which makes sense.
never watched it or read it.
It's a good one.
Mm.
I would definitely recommend it.
Um, it's not on the TV tropes page, but I would say something like House applies,
Yeah, I could see that.
because it's certainly thrilling to see whether they manage to figure it out or not.
Mm, yeah.
Um, I mean, in that, obviously, well, it doesn't apply to all like serious procedurals, but I would also take a stab at saying Bones qualifies as well.
Mm,
I think that does qualify. Um, then there's good old paranoid thriller.
yeah, there aren't a lot of those. It's a pretty uncommon one.
Hmm.
Much more common is psychological thrillers.
Well, paranoid is a sub genre of thriller, with psychological being the sub genre. There is a lot of those.
Hmm. Like, Death Note qualifies as a psychological thriller, as does ID Invaded.
As does Special Seven. Yeah,
Probably, possibly.
yeah,
Oh, it does.
I wouldn't disagree.
And Kaguya-sama Love is War, of course, is the unholy love child of a psychological thriller and a romantic comedy.
Yeah,
It is glorious.
though to be fair, it started off that way, but it's leaning more towards a romantic comedy at this point.
That's fair.
I no, it's not to take away from the fact that it managed to fucking squash those two seemingly opposing genres together.
It is really impressive.
Yeah, and make it oh so entertaining. But
Hmm.
it's definitely a comedy psychological thriller rather than a psychological thriller comedy. It's
Yeah.
the psychological thriller aspect is played for comedy. Um.
Um. Oh.
Oh, we meant to. Well, which one was it?
Oh my God, Madoka Magica qualifies.
Of course it
So does
does.
Talent. So does Talentless Nana.
I need to watch that at some point.
I will get you to watch Madoka at some points. But yeah, psychological thrillers. I mean, part of what makes it so different from like conspiracy thriller is that a lot of it has to do with the psychology of the protagonist
Yeah.
and the question of whether or not they are completely stable.
Mm.
So you get stuff like Black Swan, which a good chunk of that movie is definitely the protagonist's delusions. At the same time, you're uncertain as to how much it is her delusions and how much of it is actually happening,
Yeah.
which is a common thing in a lot of psychological thriller movies.
Yeah.
Other times, just more like the antagonist is toying with the protagonist,
Hmm.
like in The Dark Knight.
Yeah. Batman is a very psychological thriller heavy series.
Yep, that it is.
Here's something I didn't expect to come up on the list: the 2003 Hulk film.
Oh yeah, no. Yeah, it's unfortunately a very bad movie though.
Not going to argue. I'm fairly sure I did watch it as a child. It was certainly not watched more than once. um, I mean, there's also we should point out that there is also um, stuff that doesn't fall into these subgenres. Um, for example, Jurassic Park is definitely a thriller,
Mm-hmm.
but I wouldn't say it falls into any of those categories necessarily.
Definitely not neatly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, you get stuff that falls really easily into the categories like the Silence of the Lambs, which works well as a psychological thriller, with a little bit of horror in there.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas
I mean,
something like yeah,
Hannibal Lecter in general, anything to do with him, tends to tends to lean towards psychological thriller.
yeah. Oh yeah, American Psycho is a thriller as well. So that one does have some pretty strong horror elements.
Mm. Gravity Falls apparently is classed as a thriller.
Not surprising.
Mm. Again, I don't disagree. It's not necessarily what I would have thought of initially for its genre, but yeah, can't can't disagree with it.
Oh yeah, the When They Cry games are also psychological thrillers,
Hmm.
unsurprisingly.
Yeah. And something that we haven't mentioned, but were are very happy to mention, Odd Taxi.
Yeah, Odd Taxi is really good. It's a very strong mystery series with some pretty good thriller elements to add in there.
Mystery and thriller. Mystery is another genre that intertwines with thriller a lot.
Yeah.
Um, for better or worse. In Odd Taxi's case, definitely better.
Uh-huh.
Odd Taxi is superb, and the mystery is incredibly thrilling.
It is very thrilling. And it helps that there's more than one mystery to be solved.
Hmm.
Several overlapping mysteries.
And if nothing else, it falls into the thriller category for its fucking end of series cliffhanger.
Mm-hmm.
Because yeah, cliffhangers used a lot in thrillers.
It's kind of a staple of the genre, especially in more serialized thrillers.
Yeah, and
Like
obviously it's
cliffhangers aren't as common in like single entry thrillers like a single film.
yeah it's
So it does
hard it's
happen.
hard for single films to pull off cliffhangers.
Unless you're
If
talking about like scene to scene cliffhangers, like
yeah,
you're at one scene, ends with a cliffhanger, cut to a different storyline, and then cuts back.
yes,
Beyond that, it's really
not
hard.
impossible, but it is difficult.
Yeah. No, it's definitely much more of a thing in more serialized works, like a book with a bunch of chapters or a TV series or like a comic.
Yeah,
So yeah, so yeah, there's also like a very big quality gulf of the thriller genre, ranging from amazing pieces like Alien or the Dark Knight trilogy to the Purge franchise.
was Purge really a thriller?
It is listed as a thriller.
That seems like giving it too much credit.
Oh, it definitely gives it too much credit. Like, you
Oh
have
my
some good
god,
shit
how many
on
Purge
here.
films have been made? What?
Five. There are five.
How?
They make money, apparently.
Oh god, I feel so old. I remember making fun of the first one with friends on a sleepover. Oh.
Yeah, they're terrible movies.
I mean,
I don't know why they make.
the first one was vaguely enjoyable from a, basically a slasher movie standpoint, but I wouldn't say it was great.
I mean, you got good thrillers like Silence of the Lambs and Sixth Sense, but The Purge is just like, why? Of course, there's also
Oh god,
the
sorry. I just went on the Purge's TV Trump page, and even the synopsis is snarking about it. The US, 20 minutes into the future, 2022, the US government has set up a once a year event known as the Purge, in which people are free to commit whatever crimes they want for 12 hours, despite not making economic sense.
yeah, no fucking shit. You know how many people would be robbing banks?
Yeah,
All the
yeah,
people would be robbing banks. They show that murders would be the most common crime, but no, people would be stealing shit.
yeah.
That's the most common crime, like theft. Or some people might actually commit tax fraud on the purge day. That would be pretty funny, honestly.
That would be funny if you took your one chance
Commit
to
crimes and
commit
just
crimes is to say, "Fuck you, I'm not paying tax."
that'd be too fucking funny.
Oh,
Yeah.
god damn it! Now just imagining somebody just going into like a store and just buying something and then going, "Ha! You're not getting the tax from me, fucker!" and just running away with it.
But yeah, no, there's a reason like all sorts of stores just board up their shit in
Yeah,
those movies because people just steal relentlessly
yeah.
instead of murdering. Because why would you bother with murder when you could just get away with stealing?
Like,
Much less likely to have horrible consequences for you.
who do you hate so much? Like, I mean, obviously the bigots would have a fucking field day with it. But
Obviously.
but outside of them, just like there are really so many fucking like sociopathic people that they just would not care about killing people.
I mean, there's definitely a lot of sociopaths, but not all of them are murderous assholes.
Yeah,
Several of them function perfectly fine in society without, killing people at the drop of a hat.
yeah.
Yeah, hmm. What else was I gonna talk? Oh, you know what kind of thriller subgenre we haven't talked about?
Oh,
That was really big in the 80s and 90s.
oh,
The erotic thriller,
oh boy.
like Basic Instinct and Fatal Attraction.
Mm.
I don't really understand the appeal of those. Wait, no, I understand the appeal just fine.
I was gonna say, do you really not understand the appeal of those?
No, I understand. They were hoarding movies for before when people had easy access to porn.
Yeah.
And then the internet came along and those movies kind of fell by the wayside. Gee, I wonder why.
I mean, I'm just on the Wikipedia page for erotic thriller because, unsurprisingly, there is not a TV tropes page for it. Um, but the rise and fall of the erotic thriller and the direct-to-video era.
Oh my god.
Somebody actually, went out and wrote several hundred words at least about this with
I mean,
footnotes.
good for them.
I
Good
mean,
for
yeah.
them.
I can't, like, I'd be throwing stones from my glass house if I made fun of people for writing serious analysis about stupid topics. Considering, wrote my dissertation on anime and got away with it and got a good grade.
That's funny as hell.
Um, hmm. Michael Douglas is seen as a male icon of the erotic thriller.
Yeah, back in the day, not so much anymore.
Yeah. Well, I mean, as we've said, the erotic thriller just isn't much anymore. Like,
Yeah, it really just died out in the 90s.
there are still some erotic thriller films. Not particularly
You don't see
popular or good ones, but
them as often. I remember there was one that was basically like a teen ripoff of Fatal Attraction. Don't remember what it was called off the top of my head, but it involved like this stalker trying to get with the guy in the swim club or something. I don't know. All I know is that erotic thrillers are just kind of very out of vogue at this point.
Basic Instinct got a sequel in 2006.
But why?
Because why not?
But why? Seriously, what the hell? That makes no goddamn sense. I guess it made money. That's probably the only reason studio execs needed.
Unlike its predecessor, the film received extremely negative reviews and flopped at the box office.
I am shocked.
Eh,
Shocked, I say.
made back its budget. Made back its budget, to be fair.
The budget listed never includes marketing costs.
That's fair, but apparently they got a 174 million box office, and the budget was 70 million. So,
Bad. Oh, it definitely made a small profit. It just didn't make much of a profit, if any.
oh my god, oh no. Uh,
What?
the the director Michael Caton Jones signed on to direct the film, later stating, "I was completely broke and had to take anything that came in. Basic Instinct 2 was this poison chalice that had been passed around and eventually it arrived at my door."
Oh, God. It tracks, though. It absolutely tracks.
um, Robert Downey Jr. was offered the role of the main male character.
Oh, he turned it down, didn't he?
Yes, he did.
I mean, the man has made much worse decisions in his acting career.
Yeah. Women Film Critics Circle Awards Hall of Shame.
Again, unsurprising.
Yeah, there's a lot. It's won a decent amount of awards, but they're all for being terrible.
Win some Razzies. Please tell me it won some Razzies.
Won the worst picture Razzie, worst
Ha!
actress, worst screenplay, and worst prequel or sequel.
X.
Oh no. It was also nominated for Worst Screen Couple, aka Sharon Stone's Lopsided Breasts.
Wow. Stay classy, Razzie Awards.
Who won that year? Uh, but yeah, just trying to think of other tropes that are associated with thrillers.
I mean, there's a classic cliffhanger. There's the big reveal.
Hmm.
There's the big non-reveal. Thrillers don't have as many associated tropes as horror stuff, to be fair,
Yeah.
because thrillers tend to slot in with other genres as well.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Um,
no,
Mad Lib thriller title. Hmm.
that's how you get shit like Basic Instinct and Fatal Attraction
Yeah.
as titles.
Yeah. Are you saying those aren't good titles for a film?
No.
Oh my god, there's so many erotic thrillers made in the 90s. So many.
That was the heyday of the erotic thriller.
Does
Oh yeah, that's what the Mad Lib thriller title is. It's the noun.
yeah.
So like the K Mutiny, the Russia House, the Santa Claus.
I'm just looking at some of these at the titles of some of these fucking erotic thrillers from the 90s. Um Obviously got Fatal Instinct, Killer Instinct a year earlier, as well as Animal Instincts. Ugh. Uh,
So many.
One succinctly titled Whore.
Wow.
Um, a Japanese erotic thriller, Double X Beautiful Hunter,
Mm-hmm.
with its sequel a year later, Double X Beautiful Beast. I assume it was a sequel, I'm not really sure.
Yeah, possibly.
The fact that some of these are actually sequels, meaning it got sequels, just. Hmm. Probably not the movie that I'm thinking of then.
Mm.
Because I just saw one called Electra, and I feel like I remember watching a movie called that, but I can't remember. It was a while ago.
If it's the one based off the Marvel comics, it sucked.
It was probably that one. It, probably explains why I don't remember it. Um,
Yeah, it sucked.
mhm. I mean, just gonna go through and see if there's any others to really. Matrix is a thriller. I'd say so.
Yeah, kind of conspiracy thriller.
Yeah. Um, any more for any more we haven't already mentioned? Not off the top of my head. Which means we should probably wrap up considering we are close to the 2 hour mark now.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so thank you for watching. As always, please do give us a follow on Twitch and Twitter, subscribe on YouTube. In terms of future stuff, uh, tomorrow we might be doing something. We'll see. Um, might just take a day off depending on how Fuzzy and I feel. Um, Tuesday though will be or should be Control. Next Thursday, don't have anything currently planned, but we're thinking it's probably going to be continuing Ace Attorney.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the first game. Um, so we are partway through the case on that one. And then next Saturday it is the full anime 3 episode check-in, which I need to
Yep.
catch up on very quickly.
You can do it. I believe in you.
My phone just turned on again. Wow.
Wild.
I but yeah, that's everything. So we will see. Thank you for watching, and we will see you next time. Good night.
Later.